Hey guys, how you going? I'm going to give you the goods today. I'm going to tell you all of the textbooks that I used and the study methods that I used to study for the JLPT. Wow, my face is really bright. We'll see if I can do something about that in future videos. Anyway, okay, so let's crack straight into it. I went through a lot of different textbooks. The first series that I used was Nihongo Somatome. This series of textbooks has everything. They do grammar, vocabulary, reading, listening, all that stuff. I accidentally bought multiple copies, that's why there's more than 4. But anyway, it's really nice because, let's see, this is the vocabulary one. So the vocabulary for the Somatome series is nice because they have the words and they also have example sentences for you to practice in. And they have, I don't know if you saw that, a little picture with some dialogue explaining, demonstrating how some of the words are used. So that's pretty nice. The vocabulary for this one is not bad. That's the other copy. For the kanji, it's pretty rudimentary. They have some pictures and they show you where these are used. Sometimes they show you the vocabulary words, but they still focus on showing you an individual character and focusing on having you remember that character versus just teaching you vocabulary words. I'll get into that more later when I talk about one of the other textbooks I used. Listening comprehension, it's about the same as the other textbook series that are out there. It's pretty hard to screw that one up. You just record conversations and put questions there for people to answer. Grammar. I really did not like the grammar in this particular textbook series because they have the grammar points and the basic structure and 2 example sentences, 2 for each grammar point, and then that's about it. There's really not very much of an explanation for these grammar points, and I found myself still unsure of how to use the grammar points that this textbook teaches you, even after reading through the explanation and doing the questions. I didn't understand why I got them wrong. I would not recommend that using this one as your be-all, end-all, go-to for learning grammar for the JLPT. I would recommend other textbooks, which I will get into talking about now. Nihongo Somatome is an okay series to start out with, but I would recommend that after you complete that, you move on, or if you want to skip it entirely for grammar, wouldn't be a bad idea. The one that I really liked for grammar is the Kanzen Master series. So the one for grammar is this green one here. I really like this one because in addition to having practice questions, they have extremely detailed, I don't know if you can see that very well, but they have extremely detailed explanations of how to use the grammar points. They have, and it's the same structure throughout all of the points that they explain, and they have lots of examples, and they have there's a little triangle with an exclamation mark saying you cannot use it in this kind of sentence because blah blah blah. They give you lots of information about each grammar point, and then they have practice questions at the end of every unit. This one I really like. I really felt that after I read the lessons here, I had a much better understanding of the grammar points. I also went through over one particular summer and made a whole PowerPoint where I translated the whole book, because that's the only negative aspect, I suppose, with this, is that it's in Japanese. The grammar explanations, everything is in Japanese. Now, if you're going for N2, you should be able to read and understand things in Japanese. But if you want a little bit more of an easier to understand explanation, I suppose I could send you the PowerPoint that I made if you really want that. Or not. I mean, it's easy enough to understand anyway. If you're going to N2, you should have enough of an understanding of the language to be able to figure that out. And the good thing is that, like I said, their explanation method is the same throughout the whole book. So it may be difficult to understand in the beginning, but if you keep working through it, it'll get easier. Again, despite the fact that it's in Japanese, I found this one much easier to understand in terms of, like, how do I use this grammar point? Why can I use it here and not here? I feel like this book gave a good explanation for that. I also used Kanzen Master for reading comprehension. It did a very good job on doing that. Tough questions, but that's what you're up against on the JLPT, so this is good practice. And I also used Kanzen Master for listening comprehension. And again, this one, listening comprehension, it's pretty straightforward, pretty hard to screw that up. Just you listen to the questions, answer them. But if you're going to stick with one series, I would pick Kanzen Master. That's really good. For practicing, once I already understood, or thought I did, all of the grammar points and everything, I used this series, the Drill and Drill series. These are really, really good questions. I use these for listening comprehension, grammar, and reading, because that's what you'll be tested on in the test, as well as vocabulary. But I really like these questions, especially the grammar questions, because it is just like the grammar questions that you will see on the N2 exam. So it's really good preparation for that. So again, that's the Drill and Drill series. They have answers in the back. Another book that I used for practice was this one, 500 questions, practice questions. This book is nothing but practice questions for people testing for the N3 or N2 level. Really nice thing about this book is that they test you on moji, goi, bunpo. So kanji, grammar, and vocabulary. Now, I know kanji and vocabulary seem like, wait, isn't that the same thing? Kind of, yes, no. You will need to be able to read a lot of kanji. So they test you on they show you an underlined word written in hiragana, and you have to pick the right kanji. And then backwards as well. They show you kanji, you have to tell them what the pronunciation is. The great thing about this book is that on one page it has the questions, and then on the other page it has the answers with an explanation of why this choice is right and why the other ones are wrong. It's really good practice, and it's quick, right? You have kanji, vocabulary, grammar. 3 questions, 1 of each. Next page, another 3, 1 of each. And then they have review sections, which are a bit longer, and they have a mix of everything. I like this because it's fast. You can just pull this out and do some questions on the fly, on the train or something. One thing I would suggest, though, it doesn't matter what textbook series you're using, is when you do your questions, do it on a separate sheet of paper. Write your answers on a separate sheet of paper, because then you can go back and use the same textbooks again, assuming you haven't memorized the questions, which is, if you can do that, that's impressive. I couldn't, so if I went back months later to do the same questions again, I forgot what the answers were 99% of the time. Every now and then I remembered, oh yeah, it was this answer, but If you do it on a separate sheet and don't mark in the book, because even if you do it in pencil and you erase, you will forget. Or, no, sorry, no, you will not forget, and even if you erase, you can still see it. You can still see where the eraser marks are, and it tells you, oh, right, that was the answer. So use a separate sheet of paper. Finally, for vocabulary, I used this one, Kanji in Context. This is a book that focuses on teaching you vocabulary words instead of single characters. It has them, but it shows you all of the characters that all of the words, sorry, that they show up in. This is really good because they color-code it. You saw that there were some red words there and some black words. So the words written in red ink are the ones that you should focus on first. And they break it down into levels. There are 7 levels, and if you can memorize up to level 4, which is 1,200 or so characters. Let me just check. Sorry, 1,200 characters. Then you should be able to pass the JLPT 2. At least that's what they claim in the foreword of the book. I like this because it focuses on teaching you the most common words first. If you just go make your first pass through and just learn all the red words, you'll be fine. You go through again and learn all the black words, and now you can read like ancient novels if you want. And to practice the vocabulary that I learned from this book, I used Anki. You can do Anki Web or download the app on your smartphone or whatever. I made flashcards, and I did basic and reversed. So I quizzed myself on, here's the kanji, and try to remember, okay, what's the pronunciation and the meanings. And then I had that card show up again, but backwards. Here's the pronunciation and meanings, now write the kanji on a little whiteboard. I know some people say don't bother writing the kanji because you don't have to remember how to write it. It's true. Even on the test, you have like 5 questions where you have to look at the pronunciation and pick the characters. But I found I actually had a more difficult time remembering the characters, remembering the meanings, when I didn't write them than when I did write them. Because when I wrote them, it forced me to learn what each radical meant. And doing that helped me remember the characters more because it attached them to things with meaning in my mind. And this video is already getting really long, so I will make another one specifically about studying kanji. I'll go through a little bit more into detail about how I did that. But that's it. Those are the textbooks I used. And yes, I should, in that other video, I should also include my study method, which I originally planned to put in this video. But I've already taken enough of your time for one go. I'll make another one explaining my study method and how I studied kanji. That's coming up, so stay tuned. Thanks for watching. Take care, guys, and good luck on the test.